Hello everybody, it's Mr. Pete Best 55 here with Football Talk, and it's a special episode today as I'm going to be doing not just my usual Football Talk roundup of the Premiership matches that have taken place this past weekend, but I'll also be rounding up the transfers with the transfer deadline closing. But we'll move on to the first Premier League game of the weekend that's just gone, which was Man City beating Hull 2-0. With goals from Negredo and Yaya Toure. Negredo's now got, I believe, 2 in 3 or 3 in 3, so good win for Man City there. Hull did play really well and were quite unfortunate not to get anything from the game, but Yaya Toure scoring a fantastic free kick wrapped up the 3 points. Now we move on to the late kick-off, which was Crystal Palace v Sunderland, and Palace managed to get their first win of the season, winning 3-1. Gabadon opened the scoring for Crystal Palace before Stephen Fletcher equalised, but then in the second half, a mistake by John O'Shea which led to a penalty and him getting sent off. And from the resulting penalty, Dwight Gale, their £6.5 million signing from Peterborough, scored. And then I think it's Steve O'Keefe scored a brilliant third goal to wrap up the win for them. We move on to Newcastle-Fulham, which was 1-0. Newcastle finally getting a goal and 3 points, with Hatem Ben Arfa's stunning strike 5 minutes from time to give them the 1-0 win. Fulham again losing out, could be a tricky season for them. Norwich v Southampton, which ended up 1-0 to Norwich. Again, it was a weekend of really good goals. The winning goal came from Nathan Redmond. He was really good all through the match. It was a quality strike for Norwich to win the game. Moving on to West Ham Stoke, which ended up with an away win for Stoke, which they didn't get many of last season, so it's good to get an early win. A really good free kick from Jermaine Pennant to give them the win 1-0. Then the last game on Saturday was a goalless draw between Cardiff and Everton. Another goalless game for Everton, and they've failed to win a game, but on the plus side they've failed to lose a game so far this season. Something's got to give soon. Cardiff doing well, they're getting points early on the board. Sunday's games. First of all, West Brom v Swansea, which ended up 2-0 to Swansea, giving them their first win of the season. Goals from Ben Davis and Pablo Hernandez to give Swansea the win. West Brom, things could look difficult, but they did make some signings in the transfer window, which I will mention in a minute. Then we move on to the London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham. Tottenham went into it favourites, but Arsenal came out with the win thanks to a goal from Olivier Giroud, and if it wasn't for Hugo Lloris in goal, it could have been a lot worse for Tottenham. Then the last game of the weekend, Liverpool Man United, which ended up 1-0 to Liverpool. Maybe a surprise result, but Daniel Sturridge continued his great start to the season with a goal in the 4th minute, and it means, as we'll see in a minute, that Liverpool top the table. Here are the fixtures. The next round of fixtures, there is an international break in between, but we've got Man United, Crystal Palace, Stoke, Man City, Tottenham, Norwich to pick out some. Everton v Chelsea, that'll be an interesting one, I think, because Everton's strengthened their squad on transfer deadline day. Swansea, Liverpool as well on Monday. So now, there is the table. Liverpool, are they surprise leaders after 3 games? 3 games, and they're the only team with a 100% record. Played 3, won 3, and I think they've won them all 1-0. I could be wrong. So we now move on to the transfer roundup, because it was transfer deadline day, yes, on Monday. So I'll quickly go through some transfers. Obviously some of these were completed a long time ago, starting with Man City. So in is Fernandinho from Shakhtar Donetsk for 30 million. Jesus Navas as well from Seville. Very good player. I think he's going to be key to them this season. Then we have Negredo, who scored at the weekend against Hull. Again, another key player for them. And another signing was Stefan Jovetic, who is coming up in a minute, I hope. And Demichelis there that they signed just before, or just on transfer deadline day, to shore up their defence. But Jovetic, I haven't seen that much so far, so I'll look forward to seeing him. And of course, Carlos Tevez was the main player to leave the Etihad Stadium to join Juventus. Moving on to Chelsea signings again. Some of these early in the window, so Andre Schürrle in from Bayer Leverkusen. They also brought in Willian from Anji Makakalakala for 30 million, beating Spurs to the signing. They also got Marco van Ginkel in. I haven't seen too much of him so far this season. They also signed Mark Schwarzer, which is a surprise, a bit of a backup keeper really, swapping one club in London, Fulham, for another in Chelsea. Samuel Eto'o on a free transfer, I believe, another one from Anji, and it would be really interesting to see him in the Premier League. And then on transfer deadline day, they signed Christian Atsu from Porto, and then immediately loaned him out to Vitesse Arnhem, I believe. Moving on to Spurs, who were really active in the transfer window. Early on, they brought in Paulinho from Corinthians. Then they brought in Chadley from FC20. He's going to look an interesting winger. He's really tall and powerful. Then Roberto Soldado for, I think it was 26 million. Going to be really important for them this season, already knocking in the goals. Then Etienne Capoue, who's now wound up injured for a couple of weeks. I'm not too fussed about that signing. Then Vlad Kriņķis, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the defender from Steaua Bucharest. Eric Lamela from Roma for, I think it was 25.2 million. Hasn't played yet. Is he going to be the replacement for Bale? But this is the best one, I think. Christian Eriksen. Player who's been touted around Europe for many. Liverpool have been interested in him in the last few seasons. Main outs players leaving. Clint Dempsey's gone back to America with Seattle Sounders for, I think it was 6 million, which is a big fee for an American club. And then, of course, Gareth Bale completing his world record, 85.6 million, was it? Transferred to Real Madrid. Move on to Liverpool, who were busy. Luis Alberto, one of the first players in, from Seville for 6 million. Aspas, who's looked quite a good sign, hasn't scored yet, but he's been played in most matches as well, bought in by Brendan Rodgers. Mignolet, so far Liverpool's best signing, saved points for them and will continue to throughout the season. Kolo Touré, the free transfer from Man City, again shoring up the defence. Liverpool have been really good in this transfer window. Ali Sissoko as well, on loan from Valencia in the left back position. He's recently been injured as well. Victor Moses brought in on loan from Chelsea, a good striker up front. We've got Sturridge, Moses and Suarez to come back. Sakho from, was it PSG? I think it's PSG for 18 million. Really good defender. Got him a few times on Football Manager. And Thiago Illoira from Sporting Lisbon for 6 million. Then the key notable transfer out was probably a fan favourite, one of my favourite players, Jose Reina, who's gone to Napoli on loan. Then we go into Manchester United, who made a very early signing in Guillermo Valera from a Uruguayan player. Then on transfer deadline day, they brought in Marouane Fellaini for 27.5 million. Was that a panic buy? Because they hadn't got anyone in. They've also signed a youngster, Yanko, as well. Arsenal, they already had in Sonogo. They got Matteo Flamini in on a free transfer. Then they signed on deadline day Emmanuel Viviano. I believe he's Palermo goalkeeper. He is on loan with a view to buy. And then obviously 42.4 million Mesut Ozil from Real Madrid. Was that the best signing of the transfer window? Now we move on to the other clubs. Aston Villa in Jose Corr, Leonardo Bankura, Alexander Tonev, Nicholas Heinles, Antonio Luna, who is pictured, and then they also brought in yesterday Libor Kuzak, the striker from, I think it was Lazio, for 7 million. Cardiff, they signed Stephen Colker, Gary Mendel, who's in the picture, Andreas Cornelius, Simon Moore, John Brayford, Kevin Theopol Catherine, never heard of that player in my life, and then brought in Peter Odemwingie for 2.5 million on transfer deadline day. Very busy club. Crystal Palace, they're even busier. Dwight Gale pictured for 6.5 million from Peterborough. Shamak, Stephen Dobby, Jason Punchin, Campana, Elliot Grandin, Jack Hunt, Jimmy Kebe, Adrian Manarain-Appet, Barry Bannon, Cameron Jerome on loan, and Guadalajara from Notts Forest. All of those are on transfer deadline day. Fulham, Sasha Reether, became a permanent signing. Martin Stecklenburg from Roma, Derek Boateng, Scott Parker from Spurs, Darren Bent on loan from Villa, and there we were the main ones for Fulham. An okay transfer. West Brom now. They were busy. Diego Lugano, Vidra, Popov, Anelka. They also got in Lee Camp, Victor Anichebe from Everton on deadline day, Morgan Amphin-Militonio from Marseille on loan with a view to buy, Stefan Sessegnon from Sunderland on transfer deadline day. Really busy day for West Brom. Do you think they've got some good players now up front to help them score the goals, because they've been lacking them recently? Then we move on to Swansea, who brought in Jordi Amat, Jose Ruiz Herrera Canas, Puzol Wilfred Broney, their record signing, Junaid Mead from Arsenal, John Joe Shelby from Liverpool, Dwight Tindale, and yesterday brought in Alvaro Vasquez on loan. Newcastle, probably the least active club, Lorek Remy, and who was the other guy? Olivier Kearman. Everton, they brought in Aruna Kone, Alcaraz and Robles, and Kone from Wigan, Delifau from Barcelona on loan, and then yesterday got Romelu Lukaku on loan from Chelsea, Gareth Barry on loan from Man City, and then bought James McCarthy from Wigan, another Wigan player, for 30 million. So 4 Wigan players joining Martinez at Everton. West Ham brought in Andy Carroll, permanent, after loaning him at the end of last season from Liverpool. Stuart Downing also from Liverpool. Razavan Rat in defence, and there's talk today of bringing back Carlton Cole after releasing him. So those are the main signings from West Ham. Southampton, they've brought in players. Dejan Lovren from PSG, I believe, or Lyon. Victor Wanyama for 12.5 million. Then Pablo, who's in the picture, and Pablo Osvaldo from Roma for 15 million. So a very busy transfer window. Well, not very busy, but some good purchases. Hull, on the other hand, Curtis Davis, George Boyd, Manuel Figueroa, Alan McGregor, Steve Harper, Ahmed Al-Mohammadi, Tom Huddleston and Jake Livermore in the picture, Yannick Sagbo, Danny Graham on loan from Sunderland, and yesterday also brought in Guido on loan. Stoke, let me find who did Stoke bring in, because they were quite busy. Eric Peters, Asaidi on loan from Liverpool, and then yesterday Marco Antronovic and Stephen Ireland on loan. Antronovic from Werder Bremen for about 6.5 million, I believe. Then Norwich, I think one of the last teams to mention. Van Wolfswinkel. Who else did they bring in? I've lost them. Ricky Van Wolfswinkel, Nathan Redmond, Leroy Fer, Gary Hooper, Johan Amanda, Javier Garrido, all bought in for Norwich. Now Sunderland, here we go. El Hadji Bar, David Moore, Carlson, Cabal, Diakite, Jose Altidore pictured, Emmanuel Ganciarini from Juventus, Victor Manoni from Arsenal, Ki Sung-young from Swansea on loan, Fabio Barini yesterday from Liverpool on loan, and they brought back Andrea Dossena. So there's your roundup, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this special episode. Please like, subscribe and comment, and I'll catch you later, guys.